Well, we covered a bunch of different end times views.
That's right. Some of them were right.
Some of them are wrong.
Some of them are wrong. By the very nature, they're kind of mutually exclusive. I guess historic premill and dispute premill, they have overlap.
Yeah. A lot of overlap.
And then, at least, especially my version.
Yeah, especially your version with the post-trib.
Yeah. The if we had a true first or second wave dispensational, that conversation would have been different. And I don't know. I thought, should we have done an episode just for that? But I don't know what we gained.
I think we've talked about it enough where people would understand. And I know some of the stuff is hard to break down, but I hope it was like as simply put.
Right.
I know we dove into some text,
big
blocks.
Picture.
That's right. And so we thought we would do our next episode. You're probably like, what's the other view? There was when I almost made an episode on something called, it's like New Creation Illianism, but it's basically a spin-off of pre-mill. That's kind of like it's almost like what you thought with post-mill initially. It's kind of like that. Like it ushers in the millennium. You have to do with that kind of all like we're restoring humanity. It's like, but it's still a literal millennial
like
reign.
Post-mill and a pre-mill put together, like the lead up to, and then he comes in and he reigns.
Yeah, and it was like kind of too similar. It wasn't that different. It was hard to make a whole episode on it, and it's poorly defined. And I think some people are like carving that out now as like a distinction. It's not super defined. It's not going to make, like, I've got the ESV Study Bible in front of me. It's not going to make the ESV Study Bible main.
Did they just call it biblical eschatology?
that is the best passive aggressive way to like assert your views. Just put biblical in front of it, and you're like, you win the argument.
That's good.
Well, today, instead of going over a different view, we thought we would look at how to read Revelation, because there's a lot of different ways to process it, and a lot of that, as we have discussed, plays into your end times view, what you think is going to happen, and there's starkly different ways you can read. So we thought maybe that would be a good idea, because everyone likes to talk about, people like to talk about Revelations, which is the first mistake.
Right, yeah. You're saying Revelations. I guess you could say I've had many Revelations.
Right.
But you've only read one book of Revelation, right?
So we're just trying to help you out. If you're in a conversation, that's a telltale sign. If someone says that, start targeting that person, because maybe they don't have all their ducks in a row, because they're saying Revelations. But many of us have read Revelation and had these impulses to take it literally, symbolically, historically, something else, or some of it one way, some of it another. Is it just a future timeline to decode? Is it just a drama between good and evil? Is it mostly all in the past? These things happened in the first century. Because before you decide what Revelation means, you have to decide, what's it talking about? How are you going to read it? That's very important hermeneutical principle.
It really is. It really is. It's very important. Because, I guess, you could, I think maybe some readings would force you into a particular view, but probably all views could stand some certain types of readings.
I think you're right. We'll get into it, but let's go ahead and take it to the next level.
Let's fire up that twangy music.
From the hearts of the Low Country in South Carolina,
it's the Take Two podcast, where we take theology to the next level.
Well, Michael, what kind of book is Revelation? How would you describe it? Because that's where a lot of the conversation centers around, and it's challenging to unpack. What genre is this book?
Yeah, I think the go-to answer is apocalyptic. But I think there is some circularity here that you could have, because clearly there are some of those apocalyptic elements in it. But if I've asked this question before, how would you literally say that there's 12 of something or 40 of something or 1,000? Because those numbers that can have kind of stand in the place of something, it's hard to communicate literal numbers if you can't take anything literally
at all.
So
you're trying to communicate something. And it is hard. And I think you're right. When in doubt, if you just say apocalyptic, you can free your hands of. You can not that people want to make it whatever you want to make it,
Right.
but you can kind of like detach
Yes.
any strong meaning. Kind of, I might be overstating that a little bit, but it definitely fits that because it does use classic apocalyptic signs like vivid symbolic imagery to reveal spiritual realities. It was common at that time in Jewish literature. That's part of the problem today. We're like people don't read. B, we don't have a ton of apocalyptic genre. That would be weird to us. That's like not the go-to in American culture.
I know we're reading through a list, but there are also similar creation stories at the time Genesis was written, but I think it would be a mistake to go, oh, look at these other Near Eastern, ancient Near Eastern creation myths.
Yeah.
Genesis is exactly like that. We have to interpret it that way because, I think we would all agree Scripture is unique.
Totally.
So we read it for what it is. Not that we can't gain insight by reading, but you don't want to just go, oh,
because of these extra biblical sources.
Right.
I like that. I'm in the process of putting together a series on how not to read your Bible, and that's one of the things I love historical, cultural background, but you don't want to make it the foreground and interpret the text through that.
Right.
You want to make it an aid, and it's like helpful, but it might not, just because a certain book was written this way, we can't, that doesn't mean everything in this book, because it's altogether different. It's the Word of God. So that's good. So I think we're going to get into, not only is it apocalyptic, but it's prophecy as well. Mm-hmm. And when you think of prophecy, or you think of prophets, I think we always just automatically jump up telling the future, which is a big part of it. But not always. You read prophets, it's not always about what's happening in the future. Some of this stuff, is speaking just words of God.
And we're pretty sure that it was, there are some views that would make it past tense to us.
Yes.
But it was still future tense to John. That's pretty clear.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. Also, it's a letter. It says this should be read aloud, this letter, blessed is the person. So it is rooted in a real historical context. So it isn't just about predicting the future, but it's revealing a spiritual reality to people in that day and age. These things must happen soon, these kind of things. So those are really, I think, like what people are going to point to. Apocalyptic, it's prophecy, it's a letter. So that being said, there's a lot of, it's not one size fits all, a little bit of different genres kind of colliding.
It takes some skill to read and sort out.
And I'll be the first to say, I'm strong in my end times position. I'm strong in my reading Revelation. It's okay. I could be wrong. I'm not like I've nailed everything, because it is. And maybe you're right in this area and not right in this area. That's, fine.
Yeah.
So maybe we can start and we can work together and go over just a basic structure. Just kind of hit some of the high points just to give people a flavor, or if you haven't read through it, get these things in order, and then kind of discuss how do you read these different things.
Very good.
So chapter 1 starts out this vision of Christ. Really famous vision. It reminds people of Daniel and these things. You're like, oh man, this is pretty great.
Did your church grow up singing "Talk About John the Revelator"?
Oh no, but I like this.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe we can. I won't remember, so I always say maybe we can put that somewhere. I won't remember what I'm producing. But, I grew up with that song.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. Talk about this first vision, this chapter.
That's great. Chapter 1 kind of kicks us off. John's in the Spirit on the Lord's Day. These things. Then chapters 2 and 3, we get these different letters to the churches, and this is like the safe area of Revelation that the preach through, because it's these are historical letters. Before it gets into the craziness, quote unquote.
And there are even some different interpretations of the churches, because I've heard some people were all these literal churches? Were they just symbolic? Were they symbolic of different ages that the church will go through? All of that can be in there. So
yeah. So that it's not like a total slam dunk. There's still some variety,
but it is still a safe that you can teach through that without having to pull out all the charts and stuff.
In chapters 4 and 5, we kind of get transported to this throne room. We see. These visions, some of these great, passages you sing in songs come from chapter 5. Then, big section, chapter 6 through 16.
Bulk of the book here.
A lot. You're in the middle of it. You got seals, you got trumpets, you got bowls, you got all these different cycles of judgment that are happening. The question is, are these just progressive and it's just chronological? Are they repeats, recapitulations? Chapter 17 through 19, we see the fall of Babylon, the return of Christ. It doesn't take if you haven't been paying attention, chapter 20 mentions the millennium, so that's good. Then chapters 21 and 22, the new creation. So where you place these sections, do they happen in the past? Are they present? Are they future? That will largely influence your interpretation. What's this mean?
That's right.
A lot of it's where you place it in history.
Very good.
So what are the different tensions? A lot of tensions that impact these different views, literal versus symbolic, past versus future. Is it one fulfillment or is it repeated patterns of fulfillments? Keep these things in mind, and we'll kind of jump into the 5 most common views. View number 1, the preterist view, and maybe we want to, talk about partial versus full in here too.
I was just going to say that because from what I understand, the first people to use the word preterist, when they explain their position, we would call them partial preterists.
I think
and then other people came on the scene, and they would be what we would call a full preterist. And now I heard one preterist say, we should not have to have the adjective. We shouldn't be called partial preterism and preterism. It should be hyperpreterism and preterism. But regardless, anytime you talk to someone who uses the word preterism, you need to establish, are we talking about hyper, partial? How are you using the terms? Because different people can mean different things. So, but there are some people who would believe that basically everything in 24, 25 of Matthew and Revelation were fulfilled in that lead up to the sacking of Jerusalem in 70 AD. And I think there's certainly elements in Matthew 24, 25 when you see, when you see Jerusalem surrounded, get out, because we know Christians did get out. And then, who was the guy that was there first? Was it some guy was there? He goes back because the Caesar dies. He becomes Caesar and he sends his son, and then it's his son that one of them, his name is Titus. But I don't remember which one is which, if that's the father or the son.
Correct.
But anyways, so different ways of saying preterism. The basic idea is that some or all of Revelation, or maybe even most of it, was already fulfilled in that first century time period.
No, that's good. And I do have my ESV study Bible, which, if this gives you any idea, I believe the theological editor of this was J.I. Packer, and then the general editor, I think, was Wayne Grudem. So they try to have it like non-denominational, got a Baptist influence, Anglican, these kind of things. In their preview or introduction to Revelation, talking about preterism, partial preterism, they would say, chapters 1 through 3, including these letters to the 7 churches, that lines up with first century churches. Chapters 4 through 11, they would categorize it seals, trumpets, witnesses, really match with Jerusalem's fall in AD 70. A lot of partial preterists would say chapters 12 through 19, the woman and the dragon, beast, bowls, harlot, Armageddon, would actually correspond to the 4th century in Rome's fall. And then chapter 20, the millennium, a lot of them would say, this could refer to the Catholic Church, Reformation age, these kind of things, things going on now. But they would say, hey, the end of chapter 20, past that a little bit, second coming, that is future event.
Very good. You have a slightly different layout in the notes. I don't know if the key emphasis, like Revelation 1:1, must soon take place. Revelation 2 through 3, those are real churches. Revelation 6 through 11 might be judgment tied to Rome.
Yes,
Jerusalem. 13, the beast. Some might consider that Nero. And then 17 through 18, Babylon's falling. Could be Rome falling or Jerusalem falling.
Yeah, and someone like R.C. Sproul, a lot of all millennialists will take this view, and they'll be like, hey, you look at number 666, like that's clearly mapping onto Nero, like that's kind of how they're interpreting it, and that's what they would say.
How do they know that?
They would say you add up the numbers and it's the name of this, and it's like, and they would say the 7 whatever is the 7 or the 6 King Caesars or whatever, and so they're kind of mapping this onto Rome, putting a lot of this in the past. Strengths of this view: takes the original audience very seriously. It grounds Revelation in real history. The challenge is it's still hard to explain some of this cosmic language. It's like, would you say what happened in to Rome? Would you align it with that kind of language? Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. It's like hard to nail that down. And then Revelation 20 to 22 is all clearly well, that's clearly very future. So like, where do you draw that line and map things on the past versus things that could happen?
I'm just thinking about passages like where it seems like there's some meteor falling into the ocean.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's right.
Like that seems like that hasn't happened yet.
Yes, and exactly right.
The water's
and
turned to wormwood and bitter, and you can't drink it.
And what R.C. Sproul would focus a lot on in his, at least in his book, The Last Days According to Jesus, and he's got a series on this, he maps it. He'll be like, Josephus used some of the same cosmic imagery for the destruction of Jerusalem. He would say the stars were falling, and so you got, whether that's what it is or not, but that's what they're hinging on. Is that, you look at these other sources, they would say this cosmic stuff. I think us reading it does seem like there's got to be something more to that. So that's the Preterist, and I guess we should also qualify it this way, like. Just like with everything else in Scripture, or in theology, I should say, not every view is nice and neat. I'm sure there's a preterist out there saying, hey, I disagree with 4 things you saw. There's a little bit of discrepancy between the notes we put together in the ESV Study Bible. It's like largely the same, but maybe differs a little bit on specifics.
Yeah, not that we had to hash everything out, but the language of stars falling, I think, is different than Revelation 8 through 9 says the second trumpet a great mountain burning with fire being cast in the sea. That's a little bit more vivid than just a star falling. Yeah. And that's why I thought, well, maybe a meteor's hitting the earth at some point in time.
Something like that would trigger someone to write it that way. Yeah. I think that's good to think on. The next view, it's kind of the opposite. We're going to talk about the futurist view, probably largely what has been most common in evangelicalism in America. Left Behind version would fit into this, and it would view Revelation 4 through 22. So not the letters they would say past,
right?
But 4 through 22. This is still future. It talks about in Revelation 4 and 5 this future vision. 6 through 18 the tribulation. 13 the Antichrist. 19 the second coming. 20 the millennium. These kind of things, and you kind of see this one big story. You're progressing through, essentially, where there's not this recapitulation. And if you can imagine, this is a lot of pre-millennialists would fall into this. People like John MacArthur, Charles Riley, Tim LaHaye. I think if you're dispensational and you're pre-trib, you almost have to take this view. I'm not sure, but those are the kinds of people you will see take this view by and large. You're not going to see mill or post-mill really think about it in these terms.
Yeah, I was just thinking about those statements because the recapitulation, does that necessarily, how does that relate to future versus past? Could you not see
just the future being talked about 3 or 4 different times, essentially, or 5 or 6, whatever?
To me, and I need to do a deep study of Revelation since I've learned about the recapitulation view. But in hearing you talking about it and thinking about what I've studied before, I would almost personally come to the conclusion that perhaps the seals and then the trumpets and then the bowls were 3 different visions of the Great Tribulation, which is still future. So I think
it's maybe 3 recapitulations of a future thing versus
3
one
different
long
POVs.
story.
3 different POVs of that. And then you were talking about the churches that are there and how they would still be past. I specifically, obviously, one pinpoint of information from an evangelical dispensationalist view. So, but I remember being told these are literal historical churches.
Yeah.
That they also stand for different ages of the church as you move through, and you can kind of see how they might map onto general church ages. Like here is,
like America's in we're Laodicea or we're something or whatever.
That type of thing. But then the statement was any church could find themselves in any of these, depending on their own situation. But that these are kind of the general types of churches that are out there and what Christ might say to you if you were in that type of church.
Yeah, and I grew up in a similar church, and our pastor preached something very similar, saying like, this is the church from 0 to 180, 200 to 400. Like it would map on. That almost goes nicely with this next view, historicism, the historic view, which kind of is a church history timeline, where again, there's different strokes for different folks, where some would say, hey, chapters 1 through 3, like they are first century churches, but some people map more onto that. Some would say, like in this historicist view, chapters 4 through 19, the seals, the trumpets, the beast, bowls, harlot, Armageddon. They would actually do what you're saying too, like say, hey, this is the medieval church, this is the reformers, this is where we're at, this is modern, leading up to the millennium. And people like John Calvin and Martin Luther would say this. So yeah, good people. They've got, because so much was going on in their day. They were doing the same problem that many of us do today. You read the newspaper and interpret your Bible that way. It's like, man, of course, Roman Catholic Church, the Antichrist. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
And so you not throwing shade, but that's like kind of where a lot of them. And the strengths is you see God really working in history, and you're connecting Revelation to real life events. It's not like my whole complaint with Mills is that sometimes it just seems like nebulous, like nothing. It's like you can't grab on to what something means.
This might be on the other end of that spectrum.
This is, and yeah, exactly. On the other end, maybe you're over realizing it. But the interesting thing is, it's done also by Mills, right? Yeah. Just Mills from years ago. Because that's exactly the challenge. Is it's highly subjective. As we go more and more years, there's more and more parts of church history you don't know like where to put. It's hard to map things. So as you can imagine, this view, much less common today. The idealist view. Now, this view is very trendy today. This is the view a lot of people like. And basically, this is saying Revelation describes recurring spiritual realities, this recapitulation thing. It's not one timeline. And you would see cycles versus straight chronological. It's the same themes. I like the way you put it. They put it in our notes, repeated from different angles. You put it like different POVs, where you're seeing it from here, from here, from here. People that teach this, a lot of people teach this. William Hendrickson is probably very famous from like the 30s or 40s. Today, people like Michael Horton, Michael Kruger, he teaches his class. He puts a spin on it that I really like.
Michael Horton's that White Horse Inn?
White Horse Inn, yeah. Exactly. Honestly, Michael Horton's great. He's I think he's Westminster Theological Seminary. I like so much of what he writes. Just wish needs to be more Baptist. He would nail it, but he's so good. But the idealist view, its strengths are, this applies to every generation as well. These battles we go through. There is
every generation be looking for a fiery mountain to into the sea.
So that's the challenge. It's less concrete because you are making everything mean whatever. It's hard to connect specific events like I just had my revelation, or that's probably over spiritualizing it. But if you're thinking about it, Revelation is quote unquote always happening. It's the story of Christ versus evil in every different age. The way Michael Kruger puts it, he's Presbyterian. He's the president of Reformed Theological Seminary. He would say, "Hey, those are the four major views. Those are the four views you're going to find in, ESV Study Bible and these things." Actually, Wayne Grudem does have a fifth as well. Kruger calls it the eclectic view, where he's like, "I'll just pick and choose what I like, and this is the right view." And I like it's a mixed view. Different parts of Revelation are best read in different ways, where you do read some of it historically. You do read some of it as recurring and also maybe historically. And then you read some of it as obviously future. And honestly, most of you would probably say they're here. They might just be heavy one way or the other.
So if this is the fifth view, then is there an eclectic view on top of that pulls from all five of these views instead of just pulling from the fourth? Take it meta.
Just meta, totally. Because even the way Wayne Grudem has in here, he has one, he says, some interpreters hold a mixed view that combines this, or saying that, hey, some of these are past fulfillments and a future fulfillment, So I think this is probably what most people are going to hang on. People that have made this popular are people like Michael Kruger, D.A. Carson, Greg Beale. Some people have really looked at this positively because it is a balanced view. It does take genre seriously. I think the challenge is you still have to know where to put things. Mm-hmm. It's not like it doesn't make everything perfect. You still have to choose. Oh, this is future. This is when the millennium happens. Then no, it's not. You still have to make these decisions. But if you're thinking through what you're reading and you can map it on one of these views, it does help you understand at least where people are coming from, how you're interpreting the book, and that kind of thing.
That's very good.
How do these connect to end times view? So this is not one size fits all, but I think by and large, if you are dispensational premill, you're going to take a futurist approach. If you're historic premill, you're going to take that futurist plus idealist approach, which in effect is eclectic. All millennial will say idealist plus a preterist, but I think also, some historic premill will say, hey, partial preterism for these kind of things. Post-mill will lean into preterist and idealist, and many today would say eclectic. And I think a challenge today is a lot of people, it is tricky. It's not the end-all be-all, but a lot of people just throw their hands up and say, like, everything's true. I don't, they're non-committal, and not in a relative, like, gender is fluid way, but in a theological, I don't know. And I can sympathize with that, but I do think it's good to come to some sort of conviction.
Yeah.
Because it's got to mean something.
Some of that may be overreaction to what we grew up with, because I did grow up with every single thing mapped out, and it was good. It was interesting, and I thought, okay, I understand Revelation, because I was probably in high school when we went through this class, and we went through and we mapped every single thing out. We talked about the different parts, and and then I looked up, and that was the rapture, and I was like, I did have questions even back then. How can, and then I looked up, be the rapture. I think it's in chapter 4, maybe it's in 3. But anyways, I think probably some of what we experience today is maybe an overreaction to, well, I don't think it was that, so I don't really know what it is, so I'm not going to read it. And I think what I hear you saying is, you need to dig into it. Yeah. There's a special blessing for people who read through this. This is what it says. Yeah,
and honestly, read it out loud. You get the double blessing. Most of the one who reads and most of the one who hears, or most of those who hear.
Yeah. So probably. So maybe read through it and come to some conclusion on what you think might be the best way to understand it.
I thought overall what helped me, I don't come to Michael Kruger's view, but Reformed Theological Seminary, like many of these other seminaries have, like lectures for free you can access. And he's got like a 7-part lecture on Revelation, and he does a good job of explaining this view. And I had my Bible open, I was kind of marking all the recapitulations and going through it. That, for me, did it with like, I can see the recapitulation here. I don't see the recapitulation between 19 and 20 that he would affirm. Mm-hmm. But like you're saying, like the seals, these trumpets, it's like, it does make sense. There's a new vision. There's a new thing going on, new scene. Yeah. It's very, everyone has different views, but it makes sense that this could be cyclical versus just, we keep losing
straight through
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's like more than one time that a lot of the population dies.
Yes.
Wow.
We're really trimming back the world a third here, whatever. It's kind of tough. Some practical application. How should you read Revelation besides, reading it the way we think you should? You should read it the way...
Very, very pridefully.
Very pridefully.
My way is the only way. Whatever way you choose, be sure you fight with anyone who disagrees with you.
One thing I've liked about this is I have liked some of the discussion it spurred. Our church right now recently just changed our eschatology statement, I think, in a very positive way. Michael,
I don't know that we changed it.
We added. We didn't have one. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. We changed it by putting something on paper, because you should have an end times statement, because there are things that are important.
Yeah, we previously had a statement on Christology that said something at the very end about Christ returning in a millennial reign, and that was basically all that we had said eschatologically. So we took the pre-mill out. And then we added a longer eschatological view. But you're about to say something.
And I think it's been positive. I think it's spurred on some good conversation, whether people arrive at the same exact view. I think it's pushed me going through this series, looking at that, like to examine these things more, have good conversation, agree on the things that are paramount, disagree on things, have your strong conviction. But it's helped spur like really good conversation versus like, I'm going to get you conversations,
Right. Yeah, I think that's good.
Daniel 8:27, I like this verse because Daniel, just like Revelation, a lot of it is what we would call apocalyptic. In 8:27, he's getting this interpretation of the vision. At the end, it says, "And I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for some days. Then I rose and went about the king's business. But I was appalled by the vision and didn't understand it." So Daniel.
So what I hear you saying is, if we read through Revelation, we might get sick for a little bit. Overwhelmed by it.
Take some and this is he's getting this interpretation about the goat is Greece and the horn Mede and Persia, and so that stuff with it being future hard to nail. Hard to understand it. We're in the same position for much of Revelation, where there is a future component. It's like we're not. You might have some idea, but even if you know what's going to happen, it's probably not going to come in the exact way that you think.
If we had a prophet show up on the scene today, who we didn't necessarily think was the Messiah, but we were like, oh, this guy's a prophet sent by God, we would probably be asking him questions about this.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about when Jesus shows up, there's a lot of questions that they ask him. Because the Pharisees and Sadducees, they're kind of battling out on certain things. They're trying to figure out which one is right and stuff. So I can imagine if that were to happen, we would have some similar questions.
Very much so.
So we would. Let's say sometimes I think we can look back and snub our noses at the Jews in Jesus' time for
that's true.
Asking him these questions like, well, what if a woman marries a man and then he dies, and then marries his brother and he dies, and he does this 7 times? That was a real issue for the Sadducees. They're trying to figure out how to understand Scripture. Even though Jesus says, you're wrong, you don't understand the.
I can just imagine that same conversation happen today. Like, what if there's like verbal abuse, but it's not fit, or you get these nuances, and you're like, what do we do? Is this like grounds, or this is not grounds, or these kind of things? But that's good. Anything else we want to say about reading Revelation? Well,
I think in the end we can focus on 19, 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
We know, hopefully people believe that's future. And we know that we have a hope, even though we may not understand it. You don't have to despair while reading it.
Yeah, I think that's good. The overall message of Revelation is Jesus wins. It's a book of, in one sense, perseverance. There are a lot of hard times, but you get to the end, very good things happen for those who are on Christ's side. And that's very positive. And it is a book that, if you gain nothing else from it, which we should gain a lot more than just that, but that you should read that filled with hope. So I like that. Good way to end. Do we transition?
I think so.
To the last take.
The very last take.
The very last take. Soccer season's over.
It's done.
For both of us.
For both of us, that's right. Man. I said something to Karis, like, man, I don't know if I have post-soccer season depression. She's like, you didn't have a soccer season. I was like, I did. Like, we traveled all over.
You announced. You were the voice. Yeah, you were more connected than a lot of people. Right.
Yeah. But man. you definitely had a soccer season.
Oh, so pumped. We won the last game.
That's so great.
There was like 5 minutes left in the game. We were holding on to a 1-0 lead, and it was very evenly matched skill-wise. And I was
much older than you.
Oh, much older. They had 2 sophomores and like 7 freshmen. We're like literally all 6 and 7 graders. We have 1 8th grader. Yeah. And it was 0-0 at halftime. I was like, man, let's go. First 10 minutes, let's just bring the heat. Let's score and then hold on to it. And I was
like, score on a fast break, corner kick.
Ooh, good. It was like kind of a fast break. So not really fast break. What helped us was their team. Their back four, they played like a very low block where like their back four almost like always stood on their like 18-yard line. So like that's where their defense stayed the whole game.
I know soccer and I don't know what you're saying. So people who so the back forward.
Their back four, their defense.
The back four.
So that's what I mean. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Back four. They literally just were on the 18-yard line throughout the whole game. Like they didn't step, they didn't push up.
Gotcha.
So
the 18-yard line's pretty close to the goal line.
It's 18 yards away. Yeah. Okay. And so they were there the whole game. Their offense hasn't moved. If you can imagine, they had no midfield.
So there's
huge gap.
Huge gap. And the defenders.
Gotcha. And most teams we played played a high block. Were very aggressive. We're almost too aggressive because they were faster than us. Yeah. Where not only were their back four at midfield, but a lot of times their back four were like 10 yards in front of midfield. So they had all 10, not 11, their goalies back there, but they had 10 players like
we had that one time, and this was a varsity. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you're good.
They were ahead of their midfield.
Yep, yeah.
And we passed it to someone who was behind them, and they wanted to call offsides. I'm like, and the coach, I'm like, how are you coaching? And you do not know that you can't be offsides in your own half of the field. But go ahead.
So we had teams do that a lot to us, mainly because they were like, oh, even if we get beat, we're fast enough.
Right.
And so it's like, man, they just overwhelm you from numbers. Normally you can counterattack and make a team pay, but we really struggled. So they were back. So the pro for them is they had people there, but eventually we broke through. We got some good shots. They got a lot of shots because they were bigger than us. But our keeper played awesome. And
well, I guess you can't name a guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't want to say names. Was it your normal keeper that was at the beginning of the year?
No.
Okay, the other guy.
Other guy. He played like phenomenal, And then I told the coach, like we were at half field and they were super nice. I was like, there's like 5 minutes left in the game. I was like, when the ref blows whistle, if we hang on to a lead, we're going to run on the field like we won the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, but we are. And they're like, oh no, it's great. And like the whistle, everyone's like, they wanted to dump water on me. Thankfully, I'm bigger and stronger than 6th and 7th graders. Like, no, that like varsity needs water, these kind of things. Yeah. But it was like, we won the Super Bowl. We went to McDonald's, spent $200 at McDonald's. Perfect. It was great. It was like so fun. And then on Thursday, the capstone was we went to Stars and Strikes to like, wrap it up.
Starts and Strikes?
Stars and Strikes. Yeah, Starts and Strikes.
That's what Jill texted. And then I texted ends and spares.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
No, I don't think anyone got my joke. It was just like, okay.
It was so fun, and it was like, that changes the season so much, winning that one game at the very end.
Yeah, it's a huge morale boost. Huge.
Because it was, everyone was like so happy. I got compliments. It was good. I don't think it would have gone that way if we would have lost that game. And we didn't get to play this team earlier in the year because we had to reschedule, and their JV team was like unavailable when they came to Northwood. So we had no idea about this team. I was like, man, I wish it was a different team that had to cancel. We could have played them twice.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, that was it. Are your daughters like not excited, but like, man, I get more time back? Or are they like, oh, I miss it?
Karis actually talked about playing club or rec.
That is good.
That's really good. I was like, I don't know if we can manage it. Let's see. I haven't heard anything since that last day when she said that. But we went out. We played Ashley Hall at home. Went to PKs.
Wow,
and
really?
Lost.
That's impressive.
Well, because when Chloe was playing, we got mercy ruled by Ashley Hall repeatedly. So we have really we were so far down and we've improved so much that we're still like 6th or 5th in the region. But it's like we went from losing to everyone and maybe being competitive against Colleton to almost mercy ruling Collington. But so awesome. The mid-season we played Ashley Hall, and that's what happened at home. And then this last week we played Colleton on Monday and nearly mercy ruled them. And then we played Ashley Hall away on Tuesday, and you could just tell our girls did not have the energy, and they're playing, they're holding on, and it's just like 2 get through, and it's like it's hard to recover. We did come back 2-1, and I was like, why? If you could do this over again, schedule that Colleton game later. Let's have Ashley Hall fresh.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and then play the Colleton.
You guys had a lot of games in a row. Like I know varsity guys had 2. It was like Monday, 2, like 3 games in a week sometimes. That's a lot.
Yeah, they and especially because we have like 2 subs.
Yeah.
So you don't get a lot of breaks. So you're playing all out.
Dude, so fun. I'm excited for next season. I was going through the rules. SCISA is strict, and I'm hoping, like, I encourage some of our players, they should play club or they should play rec in the fall, especially if there's no JV football. I got to do something, like run, do something, you know?
I did. Did I tell you I talked?
You confirmed it, or like you heard more?
It's confirmed that it's likely not going to happen due to the lack of players.
Yeah,
because I guess they had like 14 or 15 8th graders who are all moving up, and like 4 7th graders, 4 6th graders, and then like whoever comes up from 5th grade. And it's like it's hard to build a team on 4-4, and because
that is tough.
So we may not.
Wow. Well, it's in the books. Man, what a season. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, that's our take. Thanks for listening to Take 2. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube for those who want to watch our videocast.